One of the chapters that causes a lot of concern to real estate salesperson licensees or would-be licensees is the term of agency. It kind of bothers individuals, but when you think about it, in Hollywood they have agents. The agent is designed to get the best movie parts for their clients, the most amount of money for their clients. There are individuals, agents of all types, insurance agents. But as far as a real estate agent represents the principal in a real estate transaction. After all, the public can take a homemade for sale sign and put it on the lawn. They don't need anybody to sell their house, but they have talked amongst themselves and they feel that they could shift the burden, they would prefer to shift the burden of this challenge to get a buyer for their house over to a licensed broker. And so what happens in the real world is the sellers of real estate, okay, the sellers, who are called in a test question most of the time a client or the principal, who by way of written agreement hires the broker. And when that happens, the broker is an agent of the principal. I've got to put a name here, client, principal. Okay? So the seller, who's in a test question referred to as the client or principal, is who the broker represents. And when that happens, there is a fiduciary responsibility between the broker and the seller. Now, fiduciary is a Latin term that means highest degree of trust. A doctor, for example, to a patient, a lawyer to his client, a real estate broker to his principal. High degree of trust, fiduciary responsibility. Now, the broker hires other individuals called salespersons. Okay? Now, the salesperson is an agent of his or her broker and is a sub-agent of the seller. Let me repeat again. The salesperson directly represents his or her broker as an agent, but indirectly they also represent the seller of the house. And that's why the broker is careful about who he or she hires, because by their deeds and actions, they could not only cause trouble for themselves, but a good lawyer will sue the broker, and a good broker will also go after the seller for hiring that broker who ended up hiring the salesperson. So it could have a trickle-down effect. Now, the real estate broker, and incidentally, the salesperson has a fiduciary responsibility to his or her broker. So there's fiduciary from the broker to the client. Again, who the broker represents in a real estate transaction is referred to his or her client and principal. These two terms are used interchangeably, arose by any other name. Now, the salesperson then has a fiduciary responsibility to his or her broker, and the real estate broker hires other brokers through the MLS. These are other brokers. So he doesn't have to, but generally speaking, there's a better chance to have this home sold by this listing broker sharing this listing with other brokers through an organization that he or she belongs to called the MLS, the Multiple Listing Service. And this broker may belong to many MLSs. Okay. Now, these other brokers could represent the seller or client as a sub-agent, but most of the time this listing broker says, you other brokers can sell my listing, but when you show my listing, you have to agree to act as a buyer agent. Because now if these other brokers cause trouble, a good attorney can sue these other brokers but can't sue the listing broker and can't sue the client or principal. Whereas years ago, there was a bridge here from the other brokers to the principal, and these other agents were also acting as sub-agents. And so everybody's job years ago was to get the most money for the seller. Now that sounds okay, except if these other brokers were incompetent, a good lawyer would sue them and sue the listing broker for hiring them. And don't forget, the listing broker doesn't even know a lot of these other brokers, and it's a big chance that he's taking by. And then it could trickle up to the principal being sued. So the listing broker decides whether he wants that bridge. And what ends up happening is most brokers burn the bridge. And they tell these other brokers, if you wish to sell my listing, you can sell it, but you have to agree when you're under this arrangement that you're acting as a buyer agent. If you don't want to do that, you cannot sell my listing. So now there's no more bridge from here to here, and these people, if they do anything wrong, only they can be sued by an attorney. So this is an agency relation.